The housekeeping cart felt heavy, its wheels sticking slightly on the plush hallway carpet of the Seaview Inn. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs. I adjusted the ill-fitting uniform, the fabric rough against my skin. My employee badge read Isabel, a name I'd chosen at random an hour ago. It felt foreign, like the role I was playing. Through the tiny earpiece hidden by my hair, I heard Sophia's voice, a lifeline of calm in my sea of anxiety. They're at the front desk now, Joffrey and the guest. Jessica is checking them in. I took a deep, shaky breath, pushing the car past the door to the Sunset Suite, the room my husband had booked for his romantic getaway. My hands trembled on the cart's handle. I had to see this through. "Claire, are you okay?" Sophia whispered through the earpiece. I steadied myself, my gaze fixed on the ornate door number. "I'm fine." I lied. He just walked past me. He didn't even see me. Another voice, Jessica's this time, crisp and professional, came through the static. "Check-in complete. They're on their way to the suite. Operation Family Service has begun. My own private hell had begun, too." I closed my eyes, and the world spun back 3 days. Back to before I was Isabel the housekeeper. Back to when I was just Claire Donovan, a woman who thought her life was, for the most part, perfect. 3 days earlier, I walked into my empty house in San Francisco. The silence was the first thing I noticed. It wasn't a peaceful quiet. It was a heavy, watchful silence. I've always had a strong intuition, a gut feeling that rarely steers me wrong. And right then, my gut was screaming that something was off. Maybe it was the subtle things. The way Joffrey's designer watch was sitting on the entryway table, angled differently than he always left it. Or the faint, cloying scent of a perfume that wasn't mine, lingering in the air like a ghost. The beautiful craftsman-style home we'd spent years renovating together, a project of love and shared dreams, now felt like its walls were holding secrets. I set my leather briefcase down with a sigh, the weight of a long day of client presentations settling in my shoulders. I kicked off my heels, massaging my aching feet. "Joffrey," I called out, but I knew he wouldn't answer. The echo of my own voice felt mocking. He had texted earlier, a short, clipped message working late. "Don't wait up." It had become his mantra over the past 3 months, a convenient excuse that had started to wear thin. I padded across the hardwood floors to the kitchen, my movements soft in the unnerving quiet. At 39, I built a life I was proud of. I was a marketing executive at a top firm, a career I carefully cultivated. I thought I had balanced it all perfectly: profession, ambition with my marriage to Joffrey Donovan. He was the rising star architect, his sleek, sustainable designs gracing the covers of architectural magazines. On paper, our life was enviable. We were the couple other people pointed to successful, attractive, living in a perfect house in a perfect city. But paper can be torn. It can be burned. The reality of the past few months had been anything but perfect. It was a slow burn of distance, of conversations that never happened, of a growing chasm between his side of the bed and mine. I poured myself a glass of Cabernet Sauvignon, the deep red liquid a small comfort. As I swirled the wine, my phone chimed with a notification. It wasn't a mail from Sofia Alvarez. We'd been roommates in college, and despite the chaos of adult life, she was still one of my closest friends. Sophia had recently poured her life savings, and a good portion of her soul, into opening a boutique coastal inn called Seaview. It was a gorgeous place, perched on the cliffs of Carmel by the sea, about a 2-hour drive south of the city. It was her lifelong dream, and I had been so thrilled for her, so proud, that I'd offered to become a silent partner. I used some of the inheritance my grandmother had left me. It was my secret investment, my own little venture. Joffrey knew Sophia was my friend, of course, but he had no idea I was part owner of the inn. It was the one piece of my financial life that was entirely mine. "How's my favorite marketing genius?" Sophia's message read. "Need your brilliant eyes on these new promotional materials when you have a moment. Also, miss your face. Coffee next week." I smiled, a genuine smile for the first time that day. I was about to type a reply when another notification popped up on my screen. It was a text message from our shared credit card company, alerting me to a recent charge. I tapped on it absently, my mind still on Sophia's email. I expected to see one of Joffrey's usual expenses: a business lunch, materials for one of his architectural models, another overpriced shirt he didn't need. What I saw instead made my breath catch in my throat. The air left my lungs in a sudden, sharp gasp. It was a reservation confirmation. For the Sea View Inn. For this coming Saturday. A deluxe oceanfront suite with a private hot tub. My hand began to tremble. The wine sloshed dangerously close to the rim of my glass. Joffrey had told me he was attending an architectural conference in San Diego this weekend. He'd mentioned it weeks ago. So casually. So believably. I hadn't questioned it. Why would I? Despite the growing distance. Despite the late nights. And the fact that he'd recently changed the password on his phone. Some part of meth hopeful. Naive part that refused to entertain the thought that my husband of 8 years could be betraying me. No. I whispered to the empty kitchen. I set the glass down on the marble countertop before I could drop it. There must be an explanation. But even as the thought formed, the other pieces began clicking into place with horrifying speed. The puzzle I didn't even know I was solving was suddenly complete. The unfamiliar perfume. The late nights. The sudden renewed interest in his appearance, new clothes. A different haircut. More time at the gym. The way he angled his phone screen away from me whenever I entered a room. The mysterious phone calls he took on the back patio. His voice lowered to a murmur. It was a classic. Devastatingly simple picture of infidelity. I had just been too trusting. Or too afraid. To see it. I sank onto one of the kitchen bar stools. My legs suddenly weak. My mind, usually my greatest asset, was racing. Replaying months of tiny moments. Re-examining them under this harsh new light. I opened my laptop. My fingers moving with a cold, detached precision. I logged into our shared credit card account and began scrolling back. Month by month. And there it was. A pattern I had somehow missed or willfully ignored. Expensive dinners for 2 on nights he claimed to be working late with his team. A jewelry purchase from a high-end boutique in November, a gift I had certainly never received. Several charges from boutique hotels within the city. Places we had never stayed at together. The evidence was overwhelming. A digital trail of his betrayal. My heart didn't break. It shattered. My hands were steady now. The trembling had been replaced by an icy resolve. I picked up my phone and called Sophia. She answered on the second ring. Her voice warm and bright. A stark contrast to the cold dread filling my chest. Claire. I was just thinking about you. Did you get my email? I did. I replied. My own voice sounding strange and distant to my ears. I worked to keep it even. To betray none of the storm raging inside me. Sophia. I need to ask you something. And I need you to be completely honest with me. There was a brief pause on the other end. When Sophia spoke again, her tone was more serious. Of course. What's going on? You sound strange. I took a breath. Do you have a reservation for this weekend? For Joffrey Donovan. At Seaview. Another pause. This one longer. Heavier. The silence stretched between San Francisco and Carmel. Thick with unspoken fears. Claire, she began. Her voice hesitant. Please. Sophia. I need to know. A soft sigh carried through the phone. Yes. She said finally. Her voice gentle. A reservation for 2. Checking in Saturday morning. Checking out Sunday afternoon. The deluxe oceanfront suite. She hesitated again. And I could hear the pain in her voice. Pain for me. Claire, I'm so sorry. But he's made reservations before. 3 times in the past 2 months. Always with the same woman. The words hit me like physical blows. 3 times. The affair wasn't new. It was a routine. I felt sick. I wanted to tell you. Sophia continued. Her words rushing out now. I saw him. But I wasn't 100% sure it wasn't a client or something. And I didn't want to hurt you without being absolutely certain. I feel terrible. What woman? My voice was barely a whisper. I wasn't sure I wanted to know. But I had to. I don't know her name. She's young. Blonde. Very attractive. They seem familiar with each other. Comfortable. I closed my eyes. The image searing itself into my mind. A young, blonde woman in the arms of my husband. In a beautiful inn that my money had helped build. The pain was sharp. Immediate. A knife twisting in my gut. Thank you for telling me now. I managed to say. What are you going to do? Sophia asked softly. I was silent for a long moment. The initial shock giving way to something else. A cold, analytical clarity that had served me so well in my career was now taking over my shattered heart. I would not break down. I would not become a hysterical, weeping victim. And I would certainly not allow Joffrey to continue making a fool of me. The wheels in my mind were already turning. Formulating a strategy. A plan of action. The marketing executive was taking over from the heartbroken wife. I'm not sure yet. I said. my voice stronger now. But whatever it is, I won't be the only one hurting when this is over. After I ended the call, I sat in my darkening kitchen, the untouched glass of wine beside me. I didn't cry. The time for tears would come later. Right now, I needed to think. I needed a plan. And I knew I couldn't do this alone. I picked up my phone again and dialed another number. One I knew by heart. When a warm, maternal voice answered. A rush of emotion threatened my composure. Martha. It's Claire. I know it's late, but I need to see you. And Jessica and Amanda, too. If possible. It's important. Martha Donovan. My mother-in-law for 8 years. Didn't hesitate. There was no questioning. No suspicion. Only immediate concern. Of course. Dear. Is everything all right? You sound upset. No. I admitted. My voice finally breaking on that single word. Everything is not all right. The dam I had so carefully constructed began to crack. But I don't want to discuss it over the phone. Come over now. Martha said. Her voice firm and comforting. I'll call the girls. Whatever it is. We'll face it together. The 20-minute drive to Martha's elegant Victorian home in Pacific Heights felt like an eternity. My mind was a whirlwind of betrayal and anger. By the time I arrived, both of Joffrey's sisters were already there, summoned from their own homes by their mother's urgent call. Jessica, the oldest of 43, was a corporate attorney whose no-nonsense approach to life had always resonated with me. Amanda, the youngest Donovan sibling at 36, was a pediatrician with a warm heart and a quick wit. They were more than my sisters-in-law. They were my friends. My family. The three women were seated in Martha's cozy living room, a space filled with antiques and family photos. Concern was etched on their faces as I walked in. What's happened? Jessica asked immediately, rising to her feet. Her lawyer instincts kicked in instantly, assessing the situation. Is Joffrey okay? I let out a short, bitter laugh that sounded more like a sob. Joffrey is fine. Better than fine. Apparently. I looked at the three women who had welcomed me into their family with open arms 8 years ago. He's having an affair. The silence that followed was deafening. Martha's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with shock and disbelief. Amanda just shook her head slowly, as if she couldn't process the words. Jessica's expression, however, hardened into something fierce and dangerous. Sit down. Dear, Martha said finally, her voice trembling slightly as she patted the spot beside her on the floral sofa. Tell us everything. And so I did. I told them about the gradual changes in Joffrey, the late nights, the emotional distance. I told them about the credit card notification and the reservation at Seaview Inn. Sophie is in. I told them this wasn't the first time. As I spoke, the tears I had been holding back finally began to fall. Not just tears of heartbreak, but tears of pure, unadulterated anger. I feel so stupid, I whispered, wiping my eyes with the back of my hand. I trusted him. Completely. You are not stupid, Jessica said, her voice sharp and clear. He's the fool. He's the one throwing away a marriage to someone like you for. What? Some young fling? Martha reached over and took my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. My son, she said, her voice filled with a profound disappointment that was almost more painful to witness than my own. I raised him better than this. I am so ashamed. Her voice was steady, but I could see the deep hurt in her eyes. This wasn't just a betrayal of me. It was a betrayal of everything she had taught him. What are you going to do? Amanda asked softly, her pediatrician's gentle nature coming through. Before I could answer, my phone rang. It was Sophia. I knew she must have been worried, waiting to hear from me. I should take this, I said, stepping into the quiet hallway for a semblance of privacy. Sophia. Hi, Claire. I've been thinking, my friend said, skipping any preamble. Her voice was electric with an idea. He's booked for this weekend, right? He's walking right into the lion's den, and he doesn't even know you're one of the lions. What are you thinking? I asked. My curiosity piqued. What if, instead of you just catching him, or confronting him in a screaming match in my lobby, what if we do something more creative? Sophia's tone was conspiratorial. What if your mother-in-law and sisters-in-law pose as staff at the inn? When he and his companion arrive, I can arrange everything. Uniforms, schedules, everything. He would never in a million years expect to see his family there. His own mother cleaning his room, his sister serving him drinks. The look on his face alone would be worth it. Despite everything. Despite the raw pain in my chest. A small, dark smile formed on my lips. Sophia, I said slowly. That's either completely insane or absolutely brilliant. It's both, she replied. And I could hear the grin in her voice. And the best part, his little girlfriend will think he's losing his mind if he starts claiming the hotel staff are all his relatives. We can control the entire narrative. They'll be on our turf, playing by our rules. A spark of something I hadn't felt in months ignited within me. This was better than a confrontation. This was a reckoning. I'll be right there. I promised Sophia, my mind already racing. We'll finalize the details tomorrow. When I returned to the living room, the three women looked at me expectantly. I took a deep breath, the plan feeling more real, more possible. As I prepared to say it out loud, I looked from Martha's worried face to Jessica's sharp, analytical gaze, to Amanda's compassionate eyes. That was Sophia. I began. She has an idea. It's unconventional. I explained the plan, how they would pose as staff, how Joffrey would be served and waited on by the very family he was betraying. I expected resistance, or at least hesitation. I thought they might find it too theatrical, too cruel. Instead, a slow, dangerous fire lit in Martha Donovan's eyes, a fire I had never seen before. She sat up straighter, the picture of a matriarch ready for battle. I raised that boy to respect women, she said, her voice low and firm, to honor his commitments. If he has forgotten those lessons, then perhaps it is time for a refresher course. She looked at her hands, callous from years of gardening but strong. I make an excellent housekeeper. You know, I did it for years to put Joffrey through college while his father was starting his business. I haven't forgotten how. Jessica and Amanda exchanged a look, a silent communication passing between them. Then, they both nodded in unison. I can handle the front desk, Jessica offered, a thin, predatory smile touching her lips. I worked at a hotel all through law school to pay for my books. I can be incredibly unmemorable. And I'll take pool and drink service, Amanda added, a mischievous glint in her eyes. This is going to be the most educational weekend of my little brother's life. For the first time since seeing that credit card notification, I felt a surge of power that was entirely my own. I wasn't just a victim in the story. I was a director, with the support of these Wimemi family by marriage. But now closer than bloody would write the ending myself. There's one more thing you should know, I said, my voice stronger now. Sophia is all in. And the reason we can make this work so perfectly is, I'm a part owner of the inn. Joffrey doesn't know. I invested some of my inheritance when she opened it. Martha's eyebrows rose high on her forehead. For a moment, she was silent. And then she began to laugh. It wasn't a small chuckle. It was a rich, full-bodied sound of pure, incredulous delight. Soon, all four of us were joining in. The release of tension almost euphoric. We were laughing through our tears. A strange, beautiful symphony of sorrow and solidarity. Oh, my dear, Martha said, wiping tears of mirth from her eyes as the laughter subsided. My darling girl, this is going to be a weekend Joffrey Donovan will never, ever forget. As I drove home later that night, the plan solidifying in my mind, an odd sense of calm settled over me. The marriage I had believed in might be ending, but I was not ending with it. In fact, in some strange way, I felt like I was just beginning. I arrived home to find the house still dark and empty. Joffrey's side of the bed was untouched. I changed into my pajamas and slipped between the cool sheets, my mind surprisingly clear. Tomorrow, I would begin the preparations. I would call my office and schedule a last-minute business trip. I would pack a separate bag to take to Sophia's. I would help set the stage for Joffrey's reckoning. As I drifted toward sleep, I found myself thinking not of what I was losing, but of what I was reclaiming. My dignity. My agency. My future. The pain was still there. A dull, heavy ache beneath my breastbone. But alongside it was something else. Something fierce and bright, determination. I would emerge from this betrayal not broken, but reborn. The following morning, I woke with a sense of purpose that had been absent for months. I showered and dressed with particular care, selecting a crimson power suit I usually reserved for my most important client meetings. Today, I wasn't facing clients. I was reclaiming my life. Over a solitary breakfast of coffee and toast, I received a text from Joffrey. Working late again tonight. Don't wait up. I stared at the message, noting the period at the end. It was so final, so dismissive. I wondered if he had any idea how transparent his lies had become, or if he truly believed I was too trusting, or too distracted by my own career to notice. Either possibility stung, but I pushed the hurt aside. Today wasn't about pain. It was about planning. At precisely 9 a.m., I walked into my office at Anderson and Burke Marketing. I greeted my assistant with more enthusiasm than I'd shown in weeks and closed my door. My first call was to Human Resources. Jeanne, I need to schedule an emergency personal leave for this weekend. I explained to the HR director, a woman I'd known for over a decade. A family situation. Of course. Claire. Jeanne replied, her voice filled with concern. Is everything all right? I hesitated for only a fraction of a second. It will be, I said finally. But I may need additional time off next week. I'll keep you updated. After handling the necessary paperwork, I called Sophia. I'm coming to see you at noon. I told her. Martha, Jessica, and Amanda will meet us there. We need to walk through exactly how this will work. I've already started making arrangements. Sophia replied, her voice buzzing with energy. Wait until you see what I've come up with. The 2-hour drive south to sea viewing gave me time to think. The coastal highway unspooled before me, a ribbon of asphalt clinging to the edge of the continent. I replayed moments from my marriage, searching for signs I might have missed, warnings I had ignored. There had been a time when Joffrey looked at me with genuine adoration, when our conversations lasted until dawn, when we couldn't bear to be apart for even a day. When had that changed? Had it been a gradual erosion, like the cliffs crumbling into the sea? Or had there been a definitive moment when he decided our marriage wasn't enough? When he decided I wasn't enough? I shook my head, forcing my focus back to the winding road. Those thoughts led nowhere productive. What mattered now was what came next. Seaviewin appeared on the horizon, its elegant Cape Cod architecture gleaming white against the azure backdrop of the Pacific Ocean. I had helped Sophia select this property 2 years earlier. It had been a neglected but structurally sound historical building perched on a cliff, overlooking a secluded cove. With my investment in Sophia's vision, we had transformed it into a boutique luxury destination. As I pulled into the private parking area, I felt a surge of pride mingled with a bitter irony. The place I had helped create, a place of beauty and escape, had become the setting for my husband's betrayal. Now, it would be the stage for his comeuppance. Sophia was waiting at the entrance. She enveloped me in a fierce hug. He's an idiot, she whispered fiercely into my hair. An absolute, complete idiot. I returned the embrace, drawing strength from her unwavering loyalty. Yes, he is, I said, pulling back, but a predictable one. And that works to our advantage. The day passed in a blur of focused preparations. After meeting with the Donovan women and finalizing every detail of our plan, I drove back to the city. I packed an overnight bag for my supposed business trip to San Jose, and left it prominently by the front door. When Joffrey returned home late that evening, reeking faintly of that same unfamiliar perfume, I greeted him with a carefully crafted normalcy that disguised the storm raging within me. I've got that financial conference in San Jose this weekend, I reminded him over a dinner I barely tasted. I'll be leaving early tomorrow morning. Joffrey nodded, his attention mostly on his phone, his thumbs moving quickly across the screen. Right. I've got that architectural symposium in San Diego anyway. We'll both be busy. I watched him light to my face. So easily. So calmly. I noted the slight flush on his neck, the tell he'd had since college whenever he wasn't being truthful. Had it always been this obvious? How had I been so blind? Good luck with your presentation, I said. The irony is sharp. Secret pleasure. Thanks, he replied absently, still not meeting my eyes. I'm sure it will be enlightening. I'm sure it will, I agreed, allowing myself a small, private smile that he didn't see. That night felt like a performance. As we prepared for bed, moving around each other in the familiar choreography of our master bathroom, I studied my husband's reflection in the mirror. At 41, Joffrey Donovan was still a strikingly handsome man. The dark hair just beginning to silver at the temples, the confident set of his jaw. Once, that confidence had attracted me. Now, I recognized it for what it was, arrogance. A deep-seated belief that he was entitled to have whatever, and whoever, he wanted. As we slipped into bed, maintaining the careful, 6-inch distance that had become our norm, I felt a momentary wavering. Despite everything, there was history here. 8 years of marriage, 3 years of dating before that, memories of laughter, of shared dreams, of holding each other through difficult times. Was I really ready to throw it all away? Then, as if on cue, Joffrey's phone buzzed on his nightstand. He reached for it instantly, turning slightly away from me as he read the message. A soft, intimate smile that I hadn't seen directed at me in months played at the corners of his mouth as he typed a response. And just like that, my resolve crystallized into something unbreakable. Whatever we had shared was already gone. He had destroyed it, not me. Good night, Joffrey, I said, turning away from him and the soft glow of his phone. Night, he mumbled, his attention already gone. I closed my eyes, not to sleep, but to envision the next day. By this time tomorrow night, everything would be different. My marriage would be over. My future would be uncertain. But it would be mine again. The thought should have terrified me. Instead, I felt a curious lightness, as if I were finally shedding a weight I hadn't even fully acknowledged I was carrying. Morning arrived with a pale, golden light filtering through the bedroom curtains. I rose early, showered, and dressed in casual but elegant traveling clothes. My real bag, the one with clothes for my stay at Seaview, was already hidden in the trunk of my car. Joffrey was in the kitchen when I came downstairs, already dressed in what I now recognized as his weekend with Vanessa outfit. Expensive designer jeans, a casual button-down shirt that emphasized his broad shoulders, brand new loafers. His own overnight bag was waiting by the garage door. Early start, I said, pouring myself a cup of coffee I didn't want. Traffic to San Diego. He replied with an easy shrug. You heading out soon? Too. Yes. Just about to leave, I said, taking a final look around the kitchen we had designed together. This felt like the last normal morning in this house. The realization brought more relief than regret. Have a good weekend, Joffrey said, giving me a perfunctory kiss on the cheek. It felt like kissing a stranger. Call me if you need anything. Oh, I don't think that will be necessary, I replied, the double meaning of my words lost on him. I expect we'll both be quite occupied with our respective commitments. He nodded absently, already checking his phone again. I watched him for one last moment, memorizing this version of him: liar, the cheat, the man who had taken my love and loyalty for granted. Goodbye, Joffrey, I said quietly. He raised a hand in a distracted farewell, not looking up from his screen. He didn't see the finality in my eyes or hear it in my voice. As I walked out the door, closing it softly behind me, I knew I was not just leaving for the weekend. I was leaving for good. As I drove north towards Seaview Inn, the coastal highway unspooling before me like a ribbon of possibility, I found myself singing along to the radio for the first time in months. The sun was bright. The Pacific was a brilliant, impossible blue, and a strange sense of liberation was bubbling up inside me. Ahead lay pain, confrontation, and difficult decisions. But beyond that waited something even more powerful, the chance to rewrite my story with myself, as both the author and the protagonist. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. Everything is ready. Martha, Jessica, and Amanda are already here in costume. You won't believe how convincing they look. I smiled as I dictated my response through the car system. On my way. Let Operation Family Service begin. Seaview Inn looked different to me as I approached it for the second time in 24 hours. Yesterday, it had represented betrayal and heartbreak. Today, it symbolized reclamation and justice. The elegant white building perched on the coastal cliff seemed to stand a little taller against the California sky, as if the very structure understood its role in the day's events. I parked my car in a secluded spot behind the staff quarters, out of sight from the main guest parking area, where Joffrey would soon be arriving with Vanessa. Sophia was waiting for me at the service entrance, practically vibrating with nervous energy and righteous indignation on my behalf. They're here and they're amazing, Sophia said, embracing me quickly. Martha, especially. You won't believe the transformation. I followed my friend through the back corridors of the inn, the sterile hallways that guests never saw. My heart rate accelerated with each step. We entered a small conference room that had been converted into an impromptu command center. 3 women turned to face me, and for a moment, I honestly didn't recognize them. Martha Donovan, the elegant matriarch who typically dressed in tasteful designer clothes and pearls, now wore a simple gray housekeeping uniform. Her perfectly coiffed silver hair was tucked beneath a practical cap, and she removed her usual makeup and jewelry. She looked like any of the thousands of hardworking hotel housekeepers across America, efficient, professional, and utterly invisible to entitled guests like her son. Jessica had transformed just as dramatically. Her power attorney persona was completely subsumed beneath the professional, slightly bland demeanor of a front desk manager. She wore a tailored navy blazer with the Seaview logo embroidered on the pocket. Her hair pulled back in a severe bun. A pair of reading glasses were perched on her nose, subtly altering the shape of her face. Amanda, the youngest and typically most casually dressed of the Donovan women, now wore the crisp white shirt and black shorts of the poolside staff. Her hair was in a high ponytail, and a Seaview visor shadowed her eyes, making her look like a college student on a summer job. "Well?" Martha asked, spreading her arms and turning in a slow circle. Her posture was perfect, even in the drab uniform. "Will he recognize his own mother?" I felt a smile spreading across my face. The first genuine, uncomplicated one in days. "Not a chance. Any of you. It's perfect." Sophia gestured to a bank of security monitors on the conference table. "We've set up cameras in all the public areas and in the Sunset Suite. Obviously, the bathroom is off limits, but we'll see everything else. You can watch from here." Claire. She handed me an employee badge with the name Isabel and a housekeeping uniform that matched Martha's. "Just in case," Sophia explained with a wink. "In case you want to get closer to the action. No one looks twice at a housekeeper." I took the badge, turning it over in my hands. The idea was both terrifying and exhilarating. "I might just use this. Thank you." The five of us spent the next hour reviewing the plan one final time. Jessica would check the couple in, maintaining a professional demeanor while subtly studying their interaction. Amanda would serve them drinks by the pool, where Joffrey and Vanessa had apparently made a reservation for lounge chairs in the afternoon. Martha would enter their room during their planned walk on the beach to turn down the bed and leave fresh towels, along with a few strategic surprises. "Remember," Sophia cautioned, pointing to the schedule she printed out. "The goal is to make Joffrey increasingly uncomfortable without revealing yourselves. Let him think he's going crazy. Let Vanessa think he's unstable. The direct confrontation comes later, on our terms." A security alert beeped on Sophia's phone. Her eyes widened. "They're here," she announced, her voice dropping to a whisper. A black Audi just pulled into the main lot. I moved to the monitors, my heart suddenly pounding in my throat. There, on the screen, was Joffrey's car, one I had helped him pick out 3 years ago, to celebrate his biggest architectural commission. I watched as he stepped out, circled to the passenger side, and opened the door with a flourish I hadn't seen from him in years. A woman emerged, tossing her long, blonde hair over one shoulder with practiced ease. Vanessa Palmer. She was everything Sophia had described: young, beautiful, confident. She wore a flowing summer dress that highlighted her slender figure and designer sunglasses, perched on her perfect nose. As Joffrey retrieved their luggage from the trunk, Vanessa surveyed the inn with a proprietary air, as if she were already the mistress of all she surveyed. My stomach twisted into a tight, painful knot, but I kept my expression neutral, my gaze fixed on the screen. "Jessica, you're up," Sophia said. Jessica nodded, straightening her blazer. She took a deep breath, and in that moment, the fierce, protective older sister vanished, replaced by a polite, slightly bored hotel manager. "Showtime," she murmured, and walked out the door. On the monitor, we watched as Joffrey and Vanessa entered the elegant lobby with its soaring ceilings and panoramic ocean views. Jessica was already positioned behind the polished reception desk, her expression pleasantly blank as the couple approached. "Good morning, and welcome to Seaview Inn." Jessica greeted them, her voice pitched slightly higher than normal, devoid of its usual sharp intelligence. "Do you have a reservation with us?" "Yes, Donovan," Joffrey replied, placing his credit card on the counter without even looking at her. "The Sunset Suite." Jessica tapped at her computer, the picture of professional efficiency. Yes, Mr. Donovan. We have you in our premium oceanfront accommodation for one night." She looked up, her gaze moving questioningly to Vanessa. "And this is..." There was a brief, awkward pause before Joffrey said, "My guest, Vanessa Palmer. Lovely to meet you, Ms. Palmer," Jessica said with a bland smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'll just need to see identification from both of you, please." "Hotel policy." Joffrey looked momentarily irritated by the request, but he complied, as did Vanessa. In the command center, Amanda let out a low whistle. "Nice touch, asking for both IDs. making them feel like two separate individuals, not a couple. As Jessica processed their check-in, I watched Joffrey's face closely on the monitor. He showed no sign of recognizing his older sister, not even a flicker of awareness. Jessica had altered not just her appearance but her entire demeanor. She had made herself invisible, just as she'd promised. "Your suite is ready now," Jessica informed them, handing over two key cards. "You'll be in our west wing with direct access to the private cove. Breakfast is served in the main dining room from 7 to 10, and the pool area is open until 11 in the evening. Is there anything else I can assist you with today? We have a reservation for poolside service at 1 o'clock, Joffrey said, already turning away, dismissing her. "Of course, sir. I've noted that in your file. Enjoy your stay at Seaview." As a uniformed bellhop led the couple toward their suite, Jessica glanced directly at one of the hidden cameras and gave a subtle, almost imperceptible thumbs up. In the command center, we watched on a different monitor as Joffrey and Vanessa entered the luxurious suite. The Sunset Suite was Seaview's premier accommodation. It was a spacious corner unit with floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the dramatic coastal views, a four-poster king-size bed, a sitting area with a fireplace, and a private deck with a hot tub perched on the cliff's edge. "He's splurging on her," Sophia noted as Vanessa exclaimed with delight over the bottle of champagne, waiting in an ice bucket. "That's our premium romance package, on our joint credit card," I added, my voice flat. "Not for long," Martha murmured, patting my arm supportively. We watched as Joffrey opened the champagne, pouring to glasses while Vanessa explored the suite. When she disappeared into the massive bathroom, he quickly checked his phone. I knew, with a sickening certainty, that he was checking to see if I had texted, making sure his alibi was secure. "They're planning to head to the pool in about 30 minutes, Sophia said, checking the schedule she had managed to get from Jessica. "Amanda, you should get into position." Amanda nodded, adjusting her visor. "I'll make sure his drink is extra special. Nothing illegal," I cautioned, though I couldn't help but smile at her mischievous expression. "We want to unnerve him, not poison him. Just a little extra salt in his margarita," Amanda assured me, "and maybe a garnish that he particularly hates." She looked at me. "Did you know your husband despises olives? Says they taste like punishment." I blinked in surprise. The question was so simple, so trivial, but the answer struck me with unexpected force. "No," I said softly. "I've been married to him for 8 years and I didn't know that. He's always picked them out of dishes since he was a child," Martha explained quietly. "Just one of those little aversions." I'm surprised he never mentioned it. The realization that her husband's family knew things about him, that she didn't sent a fresh wave of pain through Claire. How much of himself had Joffrey kept hidden from her, even in the good years? On the monitor, Vanessa emerged from the bathroom wearing a tiny red bikini barely covered by a sheer wrap. Joffrey's appreciation was obvious as he pulled her close for a long kiss. I looked away from the screen, my hand tightening into a fist. I focused instead on adjusting my own employee badge. "I think I'll join you out there," I said quietly to Amanda. I couldn't just sit here and watch this on a screen. I needed to see it with my own eyes. I needed to feel the reality of it. "I need to be closer." Sophia nodded, her expression full of understanding. "A housekeeping card is ready for you by the service entrance whenever you are." 30 minutes later, I was pushing a housekeeping cart down the sun-drenched hallway of the East Wing, on the opposite side of the inn from where Joffrey and Vanessa were staying. The uniform was surprisingly comfortable, and with my hair tucked tightly under a cap and my face free of makeup, I felt anonymous, invisible. Through my earpiece, I could hear Sophia directing operations from our command center. "Amanda, they're approaching the pool area now. Joffrey is wearing blue swim trunks. Vanessa is still in the red bikini with a white cover-up." I made my way toward the pool area via a service corridor, emerging onto the sprawling deck. The infinity-edge pool seemed to melt into the Pacific Ocean beyond, the water a perfect, shimmering turquoise. I busied myself collecting used towels from unoccupied loungers, keeping my head down but my eyes alert. Joffrey and Vanessa made a striking couple as they settled into two premium lounge chairs in a private cabana area. Joffrey was still fit at 41, his architect's eye for aesthetics clearly extending to his own appearance. And Vanessa looked like she belonged on the cover of a magazine, her tan skin glowing in the sunshine. They were beautiful together. I had to admit that, like two perfect specimens designed for maximum visual impact. The thought hurt, but not as much as I had expected. There was something almost clinical about watching them now. as if I were observing strangers, or characters in a film, rather than my husband and his mistress. Amanda approached their cabana, an order pad in her hand. Her posture was relaxed, her smile pleasant and unremarkable. She was just another girl working a summer job. "Good afternoon, and welcome to Seaview," she said, her voice bright and cheerful. "May I get you something to drink?" Joffrey glanced up, his eyes hidden behind expensive sunglasses. "Two margaritas, please. Salt on mine. No salt for the lady." "Of course, sir," Amanda replied, scribbling on her pad. She didn't look at him for too long. Just a quick, professional glance. "Anything to eat with that?" "Not yet," Vanessa answered, already settling back on her lounger to sunbathe, dismissing Amanda with a wave of her hand. "Maybe later." Amanda nodded and turned away, but not before shooting a quick, almost imperceptible glance in my direction. I gave an equally subtle nod in return. So far, Joffrey hadn't recognized his youngest sister any more than he had recognized his oldest. As I continued my housekeeping charade, moving slowly around the perimeter of the pool, I could overhear snippets of their conversation. The sea breeze carried their words to me in fragments. "Should just tell her," Vanessa was saying, her voice a low, insistent murmur. "It's been months, Joffrey. I'm tired of being your secret. It's complicated." "Then," Joffrey replied, his tone placating and smooth, the same tone he used on difficult clients. "The timing isn't right. There are financial considerations. The house, her family has connections that could impact my business if this gets messy." My hand stilled on the stack of clean towels I was folding. So that's what I was to him now. A financial consideration. An entanglement. Our 8 years of marriage, our shared life, reduced to assets and liabilities on a balance sheet. Amanda returned with the drinks on a tray, setting them on the small table between their loungers. "One margarita with salt," she announced, placing Joffrey's drink directly in front of him. I saw it then. Perched on the rim of the glass were 3 large, green, pimento-stuffed olives, and one without. Joffrey stared at the drink, a slight frown creasing his brow. "I didn't ask for olives." "I'm so sorry, sir," Amanda replied, her voice a perfect blend of apology and indifference. "Would you like me to take it back?" He continued to stare at the glass, a furrow appearing between his eyebrows. He seemed more confused than angry. No, it's fine. He picked the olives out with obvious distaste, setting them aside on a napkin. As Amanda walked away, I saw Joffrey's gaze follow her. The sunglasses hid his eyes, but I could see the confusion flickering across his features. Recognition hadn't dawned yet, but something was tugging at his awareness. A familiar mannerism, perhaps, or the way she moved. The first seed of doubt had been planted. He was no longer entirely comfortable in his secret paradise. I retreated to a nearby service area, pretending to restock my cart, and spoke softly into my hidden microphone. Phase 1 is underway. Amanda's olive trick definitely unsettled him. He was staring at her as she walked away. "Perfect," Sophia replied through the earpiece. "Keep it up." They've scheduled a walk to the private beach at 3 o'clock. That's when Martha will access her room. And Jessica just reported that Vanessa has booked a spa service for later this afternoon. A 90-minute hot stone massage. Just her. Not Joffrey. We'll have him all to ourselves for the final confrontation. I checked my watch. It was just past 2. One more hour until Martha played her part. I felt a curious calm settling over me. Like the stillness before a storm. Everything was proceeding exactly as we had planned. I decided to continue my rounds, wanting to hear more of their conversation. I positioned myself within earshot of their cabana again, this time methodically straightening the lounge chairs and replacing towels. Joffrey was on his second margarita now, this one delivered without olive sand. His voice had taken on the slightly louder, more expansive quality of someone feeling the effects of alcohol in the afternoon sun. "It's the best design I've ever created," he was telling Vanessa, boasting about a new project. "The client in Singapore loves the concept. If they approve the final plans, it will be my first international skyscraper." "That's amazing, baby," Vanessa cooed, though I detected more calculation than genuine admiration in her tone. "Will we go to Singapore together when construction starts?" Joffrey hesitated for just a fraction of a second too long. "We'll see." It would mean being away for months. Months with no Claire around. Vanessa pointed out, a petulant note entering her voice. "Just us. Let's not talk about that now," Joffrey said, clearly uncomfortable. We're here to enjoy ourselves. I had heard enough. I slipped away. My heart a cold. Hard stone in my chest. He wasn't just cheating on me. He was planning a future without me. A future built on a foundation of my assets and his lies. I returned to the command center, where Martha was preparing for her role. She had her own housekeeping cart now, stocked with fresh linens and towels. Ready? I asked the older woman, who was adjusting her cap in a small mirror. Martha Donovan's eyes, the same deep brown as her son's, were steely with determination. More than ready, she said. That boy needs to learn that actions have consequences. As Martha headed off to play her part, I turned to Sophia. I want to be there when he returns to the room. I want to be in the hallway. I need to see his face when he finds whatever Martha has left for him. Sophia nodded, her expression serious. We'll position you in the hallway. But Claire, she hesitated, placing a hand on my arm. Are you sure you're ready for what comes next? For the final confrontation? It's going to be ugly. I looked at my oldest friend, the woman who had stood by me through college breakups, career challenges, and now the implosion of my marriage. I've never been more ready for anything in my life, I said. And I meant it. The afternoon sun had begun its slow descent toward the Pacific, when I positioned myself in a small alcove near the Sunset Suite. From here, I had a clear view of the corridor, but remained partially concealed behind a large, decorative potted palm. The housekeeping cart beside me provided additional cover. Through my earpiece, I could hear Sophia coordinating the final stages of the operation. Martha is finished in the suite and is on her way back now, Sophia reported. Jessica has confirmed that Vanessa has checked in for her 90-minute massage treatment. Joffrey is still on the beach, but our security cameras show him heading back up the path toward the hotel. Estimated time of arrival, 3 minutes. I adjusted my uniform, adrenaline coursing through my veins like electricity. What exactly did Martha leave in the room? I whispered into my mic. Sophia's chuckle came through the earpiece. Let's just say she got creative. Nothing damaging or illegal, but definitely thought-provoking. Before I could press for details, Sophia's voice turned sharp. Heads up. Joffrey is entering the building now. He's taking the main elevator to the 3rd floor. I straightened my posture and busied myself with the housekeeping cart, arranging a stack of hand towels with methodical precision. I kept my face angled away from the elevator bank, my head down. Moments later, the elevator door slid open with a soft chime, and Joffrey stepped out. He had changed from his swim trunks into casual linen pants and a button-down shirt, his dark hair still damp from the ocean. He walked with the confident, easy stride of a man who believed the world was arranged for his convenience. As he passed me, he didn't spare me a single glance. I was just another invisible service worker, part of the background of his luxurious life. The dismissal might have stung me once, but now, it served my purpose perfectly. I watched as he approached the door to the Sunset Suite, his key card in hand, completely unaware of what awaited him inside. The door clicked shut behind him. I moved quietly down the hallway, positioning myself closer, where I could hear any reaction. For several long moments, there was only silence. Then came the sound of Joffrey's voice, confused at first, then increasingly agitated. What the hell? How did this isn't? Through my earpiece, I could hear the audio feed from the suite's hidden cameras. Sophia, watching on the monitors, provided a running narration. He's found Martha's first surprise. She replaced the expensive bottle of champagne with sparkling apple cider, and left a pamphlet from the American Heart Association about the effects of alcohol on certain male performance issues. Sophia was barely containing her amusement. Now he's noticed the bed. I wished desperately that I could see inside the room, but the audio told me enough. Joffrey was becoming more flustered by the second. Who's been in here? He demanded loudly, his voice echoing in the empty room. This isn't funny. Sophia continued her play-by-play. He's examining the bed, where Martha has left a tasteful selection of brochures. One for a marriage counselor, one for a prominent divorce attorney. And oh, this is brilliant tone for a support group for men experiencing a midlife crisis. A snort of laughter escaped her. She also swapped out the romantic turn-down chocolates for antacid tablets, and a bottle of hair growth vitamins. I pressed a hand to my mouth to stifle my own laugh. Martha Donovan was a genius. He's calling the front desk now, Sophia warned. Jessica is ready. Through the earpiece, I heard Jessica's perfectly professional tone answer Joffrey's frantic call. Front desk. How may I assist you? Mr. Donovan. Someone's been in my room. Joffrey said, his voice tight with anger and confusion. My personal items have been moved, and some inappropriate materials have been left here. I do apologize for any inconvenience, sir. Jessica replied smoothly, her voice betraying nothing. Our housekeeping staff would have performed our standard turn-down service while you were out, but they certainly shouldn't have disturbed your personal belongings. I'd be happy to send someone up immediately to remove any unwanted items. No, Joffrey said quickly. Too quickly. No. That's not necessary. Just make a note that I don't want housekeeping to enter my room again during my stay. Of course, sir. I have updated your preferences in our system. Is there anything else I can assist you with today? There was a long pause before Joffrey asked, his voice hesitant now. The woman at the front desk. When I checked in. Have we met before? You sound familiar. Jessica didn't miss a beat. I don't believe so, sir. I've worked at Seaview Inn since it opened 2 years ago. Perhaps you're thinking of someone else. Right? Of course. Joffrey muttered. Sorry to bother you. The call ended. Sophia's voice came through my earpiece again. Triumphant. He's rattled. He's starting to question things. This is going perfectly. The operation wasn't just about exposing him. It was about dismantling his confidence, his arrogance, piece by piece, until he was left with nothing but the uncomfortable truth of his own actions. I remained in my position in the hallway, watching as Joffrey emerged from the suite a few minutes later. He glanced nervously up and down the corridor before heading toward the elevator. His usual confident demeanor had been replaced by a vigilant weariness, like prey sensing a predator nearby but unable to locate the threat. He looked smaller, somehow, less sure of himself. As soon as the elevator doors closed behind him, I slipped out of my hiding place and made my way back to the command center. Martha was already there, a self-satisfied smile playing at the corners of her mouth. She had changed back into her elegant civilian clothes and was sipping a cup of tea. You should have seen his things, she told me, her eyes sparkling with a righteous fire. Expensive cologne, brand new designer clothes still with the tags on, and a little blue gift box from Tiffany's that I'm guessing isn't for you. I nodded, processing this information with surprising detachment. The Tiffany box explains the charge I saw on our credit card statement last month. I may have repositioned it, Martha admitted with a mischievous glint in her eye. It seems to have fallen behind the heavy dresser. I'm sure it will be found eventually. Not stealing. You understand. Just relocating. Sophia, I said, turning to my friend who was tracking Joffrey on the security monitors. Where is he headed now? Sophia zoomed in on a camera feed. Looks like he's going to the hotel bar. Probably to wait for Vanessa to finish her spa treatment. He needs a drink to steady his nerves. She glanced at Amanda, who had just returned from her poolside shift. Amanda, do you want to play bartender's assistant? Amanda's grin was immediate. Absolutely. I think my brother needs another drink served by a vaguely familiar face. As Amanda hurried off to change, I considered my options. I think it's time I get a closer look. I decided. I want to observe him when he's alone. When he thinks no one is watching. See how he's really handling all this. Sophia provided me with a server's uniform, a simple black shirt and pants which was less conspicuous than the housekeeper's outfit. With a quick adjustment to my disguise, adding a pair of non-prescription glasses that Sophia kept in her desk, I made my way to the hotel's elegant bar. The space was designed to showcase the spectacular ocean views, with floor-to-ceiling windows and comfortable seating arranged to face the setting sun. At this hour, the bar was relatively quiet, with only a few guests scattered throughout the room. Joffrey sat alone at the far end of the bar, nursing what appeared to be a whiskey on the rocks. His posture was rigid, his eyes darting occasionally toward the entrance, as if expecting more unpleasant surprises to materialize. Amanda was already moving efficiently behind the bar, assisting the main bartender, while maintaining a careful distance from Joffrey. I took a tray of clean glasses and began arranging them on shelves nearby, close enough to overhear him. After a few minutes, he pushed his empty glass forward. Another, he said. His voice clipped. Amanda took the glass, her expression professionally neutral. Right away. Sir, was the first one to your liking? Joffrey frowned slightly, studying her face more closely this time. Fine. It was fine. He squinted at her. Have you worked here long? About a year. Amanda replied, maintaining her cover story as she poured his drink with a steady hand. I'm working my way through medical school. Medical school? Joffrey repeated, his frown deepening. He seemed to be searching his memory, trying to connect the dots that were floating just out of reach. My sister is a doctor. A pediatrician. Amanda didn't flinch. She placed the fresh whiskey in front of him, her movements smooth and practiced. That's a wonderful specialty. Very rewarding, I imagine. With a polite nod, she moved away to serve another customer, leaving him to stare after her. I watched as Joffrey continued to study Amanda from a distance. The furrow between his brows grew more pronounced. Then, he pulled out his phone. I saw him open his photo gallery, scrolling through images until he apparently found what he was looking for. I could guess what it was, a family picture. One with Amanda in it. He looked back and forth between the screen and his sister several times, his expression a mask of pure confusion. He looked like a man questioning his own sanity. I felt a grim satisfaction watching his mounting discomfort. The seeds we had planted earlier were beginning to sprout into full-blown paranoia. He was trapped in a nightmare of his own making, and he didn't even know it. I continued my work, moving around the bar area, wiping down tables, keeping him in my sights. After his second whiskey, which he drank far too quickly, Joffrey seemed to make a decision. He paid his tab, leaving a surprisingly small tip, and headed back toward the elevators. His movements were slightly less steady than before. Through my earpiece, I heard Sophia tracking his progress. He's heading back to the suite, she reported. Vanessa still has about 30 minutes left in her treatment. This might be it. Claire, this might be the perfect time for the final confrontation. Are you ready? I took a deep, steadying breath. My heart was pounding, a frantic bird in my chest, but my mind was clear. Yes, I said, my voice firm. Have Martha, Jessica, and Amanda meet me at the command center. I want them with me when I face him. By the time I arrived back at our base of operations, the Donovan women were already there. They had been relieved of their posts by regular staff members, and had changed out of their disguises and back into their own clothes. Martha was elegant in a tailored pantsuit. Jessica looked formidable in a casual but expensive sweater and slacks. Amanda was back in stylish jeans and a silk blouse. The transformation was startling. They were no longer invisible service workers. They were a force to be reckoned with. He's definitely starting to recognize us, Amanda reported, her face flushed with excitement. Or at least, he's deeply suspicious. He was studying my face like he was trying to solve a puzzle. The combination of alcohol, guilt, and seeing familiar faces where they shouldn't be is making him question reality. Jessica added with the satisfaction of a lawyer who had just perfectly executed a complex legal strategy. Exactly as we planned. Sophia entered with a tablet displaying the security feed from the Sunset Suite. Joffrey was pacing the room, running a hand through his hair repeatedly. He kept checking his phone and glancing nervously around the space, as if expecting the walls to start closing in on him. Vanessa just finished her treatment, Sophia informed us. She'll be heading back to the room in about 10 minutes. Do you want to confront them together? Or just Joffrey alone? I considered the question carefully. The original plan had been to face them both at the same time. But now, seeing Joffrey so unraveled, a new strategy formed in my mind. Just Joffrey first, I said. I want him to have to explain to Vanessa, in his own words, why his wife and his entire family are suddenly standing in the middle of their romantic getaway. I changed out of my server's uniform and back into the clothes I had arrived in, a simple but elegant black dress that projected confidence and control. As I smoothed my hair and applied a touch of lipstick, I caught Martha watching me in the reflection of the dark monitor screen. Her expression was a complex mixture of pride and sadness. You know, Martha said quietly, her voice soft, when Joffrey first brought you home all those years ago, I thought to myself, he's finally done something truly right in his life. He's found someone who is not only beautiful, but brilliant and kind. I was so proud that day. She shook her head, a deep sigh escaping her. I am so sorry he didn't treasure what he had. I reached out and squeezed her hand, my throat tight with emotion. Thank you for standing with me today, Martha. It means more than I can express. We're family. Claire, she said firmly, her grip warm and strong. That doesn't end just because my son has made some terrible, foolish choices. With our final preparations complete, the 5 of us, Martha, Jessica, Amanda, and Sophia made our way to the Sunset Suite. My heart hammered against my ribs, but my resolve remained unshaken. We positioned ourselves in the hallway, just out of sight of the door's peephole. I gave a sharp nod to Sophia. She took out her phone and made the call to Joffrey's room, her voice transforming into that of a professional hotel operator. Mr. Donovan, this is the front desk calling. We have an urgent matter that requires your immediate attention regarding your room. Can't it wait? Joffrey's irritated voice came through the thin wood of the door. I'm expecting someone any minute. I'm afraid it's quite pressing. Sir, Sophia said, her voice cool and authoritative. It will only take a moment of your time. We heard the sound of the deadbolt turning. A few seconds later, the door swung open. Joffrey stood framed in the doorway, his expression impatient and annoyed, until he registered who was standing before him. His face went slack with shock. The color drained from his features as his disbelieving gaze moved from my face to his mother's, to his sister's, all of us regarding him with identical expressions of cold, quiet disappointment. His world, so carefully constructed on a foundation of lies, was crumbling around him in real time. Surprise, I said, my voice soft but carrying the weight of a death sentence. Mind if we come in? I believe you and I have a few things to discuss. Joffrey's mouth opened and closed several times, like a fish gasping for air, but no sound emerged. He stumbled backward into the room, his eyes wide with a mixture of terror and utter disbelief. We followed him in, a silent, unified front of judgment. Sophia closed the door softly behind us, the click of the latch sounding unnervingly final in the quiet room. What how? Joffrey finally sputtered, looking wildly from one face to another as if he were trapped in a waking nightmare. What is this? What are you all doing here? Well, I was supposed to be at a business conference in San Jose, I replied, my voice deceptively calm. I walked further into the suite, taking in the rumpled bed and the half-empty bottle of sparkling cider on the table. Just as you were supposed to be at an architectural symposium in San Diego. Funny how neither of us ended up where we claimed to be going. The fog of confusion on Joffrey's face finally cleared, replaced by the dawning horror of comprehension, followed quickly by a surge of defensive anger. Claire, I can explain. Can you? I interrupted, my voice sharp now, cutting through his pathetic attempt to control the narrative. Can you explain the hotel charges on our credit card for the past 3 months? The late nights that didn't match your firm's billable hours? The mysterious calls? The perfume on your clothes that wasn't mine? I gestured around the luxurious suite, my hand sweeping to encompass the panoramic ocean view, the private hot tub, the king-sized bed. Can you explain booking this romantic getaway with your assistant while lying to my face about where you would be? Joffrey's expression hardened, his shock giving way to a desperate attempt to turn the tables. You had me followed? You spied on me? Is that it? I didn't need to, I replied, my voice dropping to a cool, even tone. Sophia owns this place. I'm an investor. Your reservation was flagged automatically the moment you made it. At the mention of Sophia's name, Joffrey's gaze snapped to her, and the final piece of the puzzle clicked into place for him. Your college roommate, of course. He ran a hand through his damp hair, desperation seeping into his voice. Look, Claire, this isn't what it seems. Vanessa and I, it's just a fling. It's nothing serious. We can work through this. Let's just go home and talk about this. Martha made a sound of pure disgust. A fling? She echoed, her voice trembling with rage. Is that how you justify betraying your marriage vows? Joffrey, I raised you to be a better man than this. Mom! He seemed to truly register her presence for the first time, as if the shock had been too great for his brain to process all of us at once. What are you doing here? And Jessica? Amanda? What is this? Some kind of sick intervention? More like a revelation. Jessica said, her voice as cold and sharp as ice. A revelation of who you really are when you think no one is looking. Joffrey's shock was rapidly morphing into indignant rage. It was the defense mechanism of a man caught with no way out. So what was all this? He demanded, gesturing wildly. The hotel staff who kept looking familiar? The damned olives in my drink. The brochures on the bed. You've all been playing some elaborate, twisted game with me. It wasn't a game. Joffrey. I corrected him, stepping closer. It was a mirror. We were holding up a mirror to show you exactly what you've become. A man who lies to his wife, who cheats with his assistant, and who uses his family's money to fund his infidelity. The color that had drained from Joffrey's face now returned in a rush of furious red. My family's money? I earn my own money. Claire, my firm is successful because of my talent, my hard work. Your firm got its start with a substantial loan from your mother that you've yet to fully repay. Jessica interjected, her lawyer's memory for facts unerring. And your first major clients came from my father's business connections. I added, my voice steady. The house we live in. We could only afford the down payment because of my inheritance from my grandmother. Your precious Audie. It was a joint purchase, made with our shared assets. Don't you dare stand here and pretend you've done this all on your own. Joffrey. He opened his mouth to argue further, his face a mask of wounded pride. But a soft knock at the door silenced him. Every head in the room turned toward the entrance. A sense of suspended animation fell over us. Sophia, closest to the door, moved to answer it. Vanessa Palmer stood in the doorway, her face glowing from her massage, a serene smile on her lips. The smile faded instantly as she took in the crowded room. Her gaze moved from Martha's stony face to Jessica's and Amanda's cold stares, before finally settling on me. The color drained from her cheeks as recognition dawned. You're his wife, she said, her voice small and breathy. Yes, I confirmed. My voice even. I'm Claire. And these are Joffrey's mother and sisters. Welcome to the family reunion. Vanessa, please, come in. I think you should be part of this conversation, too. Vanessa hesitated in the doorway, her eyes darting to Joffrey for some kind of explanation. Some rescue. He stood frozen, silent, offering her nothing. For a moment, it seemed she might turn and flee. But curiosity, or perhaps a misplaced sense of loyalty, propelled her forward. She stepped into the suite, and Sophia closed the door behind her, trapping her with us. What's going on, Joff? She asked, moving to stand beside him, though I noticed she maintained a careful foot of distance between them. She was no fool. She could sense the danger in the room. What's going on? Jessica answered before Joffrey could attempt to speak. Is that my brother has been exposed as a liar and a cheat. To his wife, to his family, and, I suspect, to you as well. Vanessa's perfectly sculpted eyebrows drew together in confusion. Your brother? I don't understand. Allow me to clarify, I said, stepping forward so that I was the sole focus of her attention. The woman who checked you in at the front desk this morning. That's Jessica Donovan Chen, Joffrey's older sister, and a senior partner at a top law firm in the city. The woman who served you those lovely margaritas by the pool? That's Amanda Donovan, his younger sister, and a pediatric surgeon at San Francisco Memorial Hospital, and the diligent housekeeper who left those interesting brochures on your bed earlier. That would be Martha Donovan, Joffrey's mother. With each introduction, Vanessa's eyes widened further. Her gaze started between the women and Joffrey, who stood rigid with a toxic mixture of anger and humiliation darkening his features. He looked utterly defeated. You've been following us? Vanessa asked, a note of indignation entering her voice as she found her footing. Spying on us? That's an invasion of privacy. Privacy, Martha echoed, her aristocratic eyebrows rising in disbelief. My dear, you have been sleeping with my married son in a hotel room paid for with his wife's money. I'm not sure the moral high ground is yours to claim. Vanessa flushed a deep, blotchy red, her composure finally cracking. She turned on Joffrey. You told me your marriage was essentially over. That you? She looked at me, her eyes filled with a new, dawning anger. We're distant and career-obsessed, and that you hadn't been a real couple in years. I felt the accusation like a physical blow, but I refused to show it. Is that so? How interesting. Considering we attended his firm's holiday party together just last month, took a weekend trip to Napa 3 weeks ago, and have been actively discussing starting a family this past year. I turned my gaze back to my husband. Were those discussions before or after you began sleeping with your assistant? Darling. Joffrey's jaw worked, but no words came out. Claire, this isn't. We should discuss this privately. Not like this. Why not like this? I challenged him, my voice rising for the first time. You didn't seem concerned about privacy when you were bringing another woman to a hotel. That I partially own. Vanessa's head snapped toward Joffrey, her eyes blazing. What does she mean? A hotel she partially owns? Sophia stepped forward, her role as innkeeper momentarily resurfacing. Seaview Inn is my establishment. Ms. Palmer. Claire is a silent partner and investor. She has been since we opened 2 years ago. You knew? Vanessa demanded of Joffrey, her voice rising to a near shriek. You brought me to a hotel your wife owns? Are you insane? I didn't know. Joffrey protested, finally finding his voice. How could I? She never told me she invested in Sophia's place. Perhaps for the same reason you never told me. You were sleeping with your 26-year-old assistant. I replied evenly. Some secrets are just easier to keep than to share, aren't they? The room fell silent as the weight of my words settled over them. Vanessa had begun edging away from Joffrey, her expression shifting from confusion to cold, hard comprehension. She was finally seeing him for who he was, not who he pretended to be. How long? I asked quietly, the question directed at both of them. Joffrey looked away, unable to meet my gaze. For months, he admitted, his voice barely a mumble. 7. Vanessa corrected, her own voice small but clear. It's been 7 months. I absorbed this new piece of information with a calm that surprised even me. 7 months. More than half a year of lies. The affair had started shortly after our 8th anniversary trip to Hawaii. A trip I had planned as a surprise. A trip where I had naively believed we had reconnected and strengthened our bond. It had all been a lie. I see, I said simply. Then I turned my full attention to Vanessa. Did you know he's been telling me he wants to start a family? That we've been looking at larger houses in the suburbs? That he's been talking about how he wants me to cut back on my career, to focus on raising our children? Vanessa's face went pale. No, she whispered. He told me you were both completely focused on your careers. He said you had both agreed you didn't want children. Her voice hardened as she turned back to Joffrey. He said you'd agreed the marriage had run its course, but you were staying together for appearances and for financial reasons until his big Singapore project was finalized. Appearances and financial reasons, I repeated, the words tasting like poison on my tongue. How very romantic for everyone involved. The final confrontation was here, and it was everything I had planned for and more. It was ugly. It was painful. But it was, above all, the truth. Joffrey made a frustrated sound in the back of his throat, a cornered animal preparing to lash out. This isn't helping anything. Yes, I lied. I lied to both of you. I made a mistake. A mistake? Martha's voice cut through the air, sharp as a surgeon's scalpel. Forgetting to pay a bill is a mistake. Joffrey. Burning dinner is a mistake. Systematically deceiving your wife for more than half a year while you pursue another woman is a choice? A series of deliberate, selfish choices. Mom, please, Joffrey pleaded, his anger deflating into a pathetic whine. This isn't your business. You made it my business, Martha replied firmly, her chin held high. You made it my business when you involved your family in your deception. When you lied to me about where you were spending weekends. And when you used the values I tried to instill in you as a shield for your dishonorable behavior. Jessica stepped forward then, her attorney's instincts taking over completely. She addressed Joffrey, but her words were for everyone in the room. Claire has all the evidence she needs for a fault-based divorce that would be very much in her favor. Joffrey. Hotel receipts. Credit card statements. Eyewitness accounts from the staff here. She paused for dramatic effect. Even surveillance footage from this variant. Not to mention the sworn testimony of your mistress. Should she choose to cooperate? Vanessa's head snapped up at the word mistress, her eyes flashing with a renewed anger. I am not anyone's mistress, she said, her voice shaking with humiliation. I was led to believe his marriage was over in all but name. She turned on Joffrey, and the tears that had been welling in her eyes finally spilled over. Tears of anger and betrayal, not of sorrow. You told me you were just waiting for the right time to tell her. You said that once the Carson project was complete, you would file for divorce. Was that a lie? Too. Was all of it a lie? Joffrey's damning silence was all the confirmation she needed. Vanessa let out a shaky breath and grabbed her purse from where she dropped it on a chair. I can't believe I fell for this, she said, shaking her head as if to clear it. 7 months of my life, wasted on a man who couldn't even be honest about his own dishonesty. She glanced at me, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of genuine remorse in her eyes. I am sorry. I truly didn't know the extent of his lies, though I know that doesn't excuse my part in this. With that, she turned and walked to the door, pausing with her hand on the knob. She looked back at Joffrey one last time, her expression filled with a cold, hard disgust that was far more damaging than any shouted insult. Don't call me, Joffrey. Don't text me. Don't even think about coming to the office on Monday. I'll have my desk cleared out by then. And my letter of resignation will be in HR's inbox. She looked at him with the chilling clarity of someone seeing a person for who they truly are, for the very first time. I would rather be unemployed than work another day for a man like you. The door closed behind her with a soft but final click, leaving a thick, awkward silence in its wake. Joffrey stood alone now, physically isolated in the center of the room in a way that perfectly mirrored his sudden social and emotional isolation. His shoulders, which he always held with such architectural precision, finally slumped as the full, devastating impact of the situation appeared to hit him. He hadn't just lost his mistress. He had lost his job, his family, and his wife, all in the space of 10 minutes. Well, Amanda said after a long moment, breaking the tension, that was actually more satisfying than I expected. Sophia cleared her throat, ever the gracious hostess even in the midst of a domestic war. I think perhaps I should give you all some privacy for the remainder of this family discussion. I'll be in my office if you need anything at all. She squeezed my arm supportively as she passed, a silent gesture of solidarity. Before slipping out of the room, we were alone now, the ruins of a family. I took a deep breath, finding my center in the swirling chaos of my emotions. The confrontation had gone even better than I had anticipated. But the most important part was still to come. I walked over to my purse, which I had set on a console table, and removed a thick manila envelope. I placed it on the coffee table between myself and Joffrey. What is this? He asked, eyeing the envelope warily, as if it were another bomb waiting to detonate. Divorce papers, I replied calmly, already drawn up by a colleague of Jessica's who specializes in family law. All they need is your signature. Joffrey barked out a laugh of pure disbelief. You can't be serious. You expect me to sign divorce papers right now? Without even reading them? Without consulting my own attorney? The terms are quite generous, considering the circumstances, Jessica informed him, her voice cool and businesslike. Claire retains the house, as it was largely purchased with her inheritance. She also retains all of her own investments, including, of course, her stake in this inn. You keep your architectural firm and your personal assets. There will be no alimony requested in either direction. A clean break. And if I refuse? Joffrey challenged, a flicker of his usual arrogance returning. If I decide to fight this, then we do this the hard way, I said simply, meeting his gaze without flinching. A public, contested divorce, with all the evidence of your infidelity presented in open court, your clients finding out, your professional reputation suffering, your carefully curated personal life becoming gossip fodder for the entire city. Is that what you want, Joffrey? Martha stepped closer to her son, her expression a complex mixture of profound disappointment and lingering maternal concern. Don't be a fool twice in one day, Joffrey. You've already lost so much. Don't lose your dignity as well. Sign the papers. Joffrey looked at each of our faces in turn, his mother's disappointed, but resolute expression, Jessica's cold, professional assessment, Amanda's open contempt, and finally, my calm, unshakable determination. Whatever he saw there seemed to deflate the last of his resistance. He sank onto the edge of the sofa, his entire body seeming to collapse inward. Fine, he said, his voice raspy as he reached for the envelope. He pulled out a pen from his jacket pocket. But I want it noted that I am signing this under duress. Noted, Jessica replied dryly. Though I'd argue the only duress present in this room is a direct consequence of your own actions. As Joffrey read through and signed the documents, an uncomfortable silence fell over the room. I watched the man I had loved for more than a decade, the man whose children I had thought I would bear, and I tried to reconcile the Joffrey I had married with the stranger sitting before me now. Had he always been this person deceitful, arrogant, selfish, and I had simply failed to see it? Or had he changed over time, the pressures of success and ego transforming him so gradually that I hadn't noticed, until it was too late? Maybe, I thought with a pang of sadness. It was a little of both. It's done, Joffrey said finally, his voice hollow. He slid the signed papers back across the table to me. He wouldn't look at me. He couldn't. I hope you're all satisfied with your little sting operation. Satisfied isn't the word I would choose, I replied, carefully gathering the documents that represented the end of my marriage. I slid them back into the envelope. But it was necessary. Not just for me, but for you, too. You've been living a double life, Joffrey. That kind of deception exacts a toll, even on the deceiver. Joffrey's laugh was brittle. Spare me the psychological analysis. Claire, you got what you wanted. The moral high ground in the house. What I wanted, I said quietly, the truth of the words aching in my chest. was a husband who honored his vows, a partner who respected me enough to be honest, even when the truth was difficult. What I'm settling for is my freedom and my self-respect. Martha approached her son, placing a gentle hand on his arm. You need to leave now, Joffrey. Find somewhere else to stay tonight. Not here. We can talk tomorrow, when you've had time to reflect on the choices you've made. He shook off her touch, his eyes flashing with a final, desperate burst of anger. Talk about what? How my entire family conspired against me? How you humiliated me in front of? No, Martha said firmly, her patience finally gone. About how you're going to rebuild your life and your character after this. About how you are going to make amends. Not just to Claire, but to yourself. Because the man I raised you to be would be ashamed of what you've done here today. Joffrey had no response to that. He gathered his overnight bag in silence, the weight of his family's collective judgment visibly heavy on his shoulders. At the door, he paused, and for the first time since this ordeal began, he turned and looked directly at me. I did love you. You know, he said, his voice softer than before, laced with a regret that sounded, for the first time, genuine. I know you won't believe that now, but it's true. I met his gaze steadily, my own heart a confusing mix of lingering pain and nascent peace. I believe you did, Joffrey, in your own way. But love without respect and honesty isn't enough. It never was. After Joffrey departed, the heavy door clicking shut behind him, the four of us remained in the suite. There, which moments before had been thick with tension and unspoken accusations, slowly began to clear, like fog dissipating under a morning sun. The adrenaline that had sustained me for the past 72 hours began to recede, leaving a profound, bone-deep weariness in its place. It was over. Amanda was the first to break the silence. She walked over to the mini refrigerator, bypassing the sparkling cider, and pulled out a small, chilled bottle of champagne. The real champagne. I think this calls for a toast, she declared, locating for clean glasses with the efficiency of someone used to managing chaotic situations. As she popped the cork with a soft thump, Jessica took the signed divorce papers from my hand and placed them securely in her designer handbag. I'll have these filed first thing Monday morning, she said, her voice full of grim satisfaction. It will be finalized as quickly as the law allows. Amanda poured the bubbling liquid into the flutes and handed one to each of us. To Claire, she said, raising her glass high, who faced betrayal with more grace and strategic brilliance than anyone I have ever known. To Claire, Jessica and Martha echoed, their glasses clinking against hers. I accepted the champagne, a complex swirl of emotions making it difficult to speak for a moment. There was relief, of course, sharp and overwhelming, but there was also a deep, lingering sadness for the marriage that was, and the future that would never be. There was vindication, and anger, and beneath it all, that curious sense of lightness I'd felt before, as if a great weight I hadn't fully acknowledged had finally been lifted from my shoulders. Thank you, I said finally, my voice thick with unshed tears. I looked at each of these incredible women in turn, for believing me, for supporting me, for helping me face this with dignity instead of just falling apart. We're family, Claire, Martha reminded me, echoing her earlier words. She reached out and gently touched my cheek. That doesn't change because of this. You are still our sister, our daughter. That part is not over. But everything else will change, I said, the reality of my new situation beginning to sink in with terrifying clarity. I have to go back to an empty house. I have to tell my friends, my colleagues, I'm starting over. At 39, Jessica shook her head firmly. You are not starting over, she corrected me, her lawyerly precision softening into genuine warmth. You are starting anew. There's a difference. You are not back at square one. Claire, you are beginning a new chapter with all the wisdom, experience, and strength you've gained from the last one. She offered a small, rare smile. Plus, you have us. You're not doing it alone. The distinction resonated with me. Starting new. She was right. I wasn't the same naive, trusting woman who had married Joffrey 8 years ago. I was stronger, wiser, more self-assured. And I wasn't alone. I had found a deeper, more authentic family in the wreckage of my marriage. A soft knock at the door announced Sophia's return. She entered bearing a tray of hors d'oeuvres to accompany the champagne, her expression curious and a little anxious. Is it done? I nodded, raising my glass to her. It's done. The papers are signed. Then in that case, Sophia said, setting down the tray and taking the glass Amanda offered her, I'd like to propose a different sort of arrangement. She turned to me, her eyes bright with a new idea. Since you're now officially single, and a part owner of this establishment, why not stay for a while? I blinked in surprise. Stay here? Not just as a guest. Sophia clarified, her excitement growing. The owner's suite is always available. And God knows this place could use your marketing expertise on a more permanent basis. What if you took a real leave of absence from your job in the city? Come work with me. Not as a silent partner, but as a full partner. Her voice became more earnest. You invested your money, Claire. But I've always valued your business sense more. Help me make this place the premier boutique destination on the entire coast. Consider it a transition period, a change of scenery, a place to heal. The offer was unexpected but immediately, powerfully appealing. The thought of returning to the house in San Francisco, the house Joffrey and I had built together, filled me with a sudden, visceral dread. Sleeping in our bed, cooking in our kitchen, seeing reminders of our shared life in every single room, it felt impossible. But here, in this beautiful place overlooking the Pacific, with my closest friend by my side and a new, exciting challenge to focus on, here, I might actually begin to heal. I'd need to take a formal leave of absence from the firm. I mused out loud, my marketing brain already considering the logistics, and I'd have to figure out what to do with the house long term. Sell it. Maybe. All manageable details. Martha assured me, her practical nature taking over. Jessica can handle the legalities of the house sale. The important thing is that you do what's right for you now, Claire. Not what's convenient or expected. I looked around at these women who had rallied around me without a moment's hesitation. My friend of 20 years. My mother-in-law, who had chosen her bond with me over her bond with her own son. My sisters-in-law, who had become true sisters in spirit. For the first time since discovering Joffrey's betrayal, a genuine, unburdened smile spread across my face. It felt like the sun breaking through the clouds. To new beginnings. Then, I said, raising my glass higher, and to family. The kind we choose. Not just the kind we're born or married into. To family. They all echoed. Our glasses clinking together in the golden afternoon light, filtering through the suite's large windows. 6 months later, the California sun was warm on my face as I stood on the private balcony of the owner's suite at Seaview Inn. The ocean stretched before me, vast and ever-changing, yet somehow eternal. I had taken Sophia up on her offer. My leave of absence from Anderson and Burke had become a permanent resignation. The house in San Francisco had been sold. The profit split cleanly down the middle as per our agreement. I now lived and worked here, in this place of beauty that had once been a stage for my greatest heartbreak. Now, it was the foundation of my new life. I had poured all my energy and expertise into the inn, working alongside Sophia to rebrand, expand our marketing, and create unique guest experiences. We were more successful than ever, and I felt a sense of professional fulfillment that was deeper and more personal than anything I had ever felt in my corporate career. The pain of Joffrey's betrayal hadn't vanished entirely. Such a deep wound doesn't heal overnight. It leaves a scar, but the scar was no longer a source of constant pain. It was a reminder of my own resilience, of my capacity to survive and to thrive. My phone buzzed with a new message. It was from a group chat titled The Donovan Women and Claire. It was a photo from Amanda of her new puppy, followed by a message from Martha. Can't wait for our girls' weekend next month. Jessica is bringing the good wine this time. I smiled. A real, easy smile that reached my eyes. I typed back, the owner's suite will be ready for you. I'll have the champagne chilled. My marriage had ended in betrayal, but I had not ended with it. In its place, I have found a family forged in loyalty and love. And more importantly, I have found myself again. Not the woman who was Joffrey Donovan's wife, but simply Claire, a woman who was strong, who was loved, and who was, for the first time in a very long time, completely and utterly free. As twilight began to embrace the coast, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, I lifted my glass of wine in a private toast, not to the end of a chapter, but to the beautiful, wide open, unwritten pages of the next one. Some endings, I realized, watching the sun dip below the endless horizon, were actually the most perfect beginnings in disguise.